We're rolling.
Oh, are we rolling?
Yeah.
Wow, we are rolling. All right, I'm going to start.
Yeah, you can do that.
Dude, I'm starting right now. We're back. Folks, welcome to the Hell Gigs podcast. Thank you for listening. Welcome back. I say we, but it is a team effort because Dave's here and I'm here, and we had to fight people in this space to get here. We had to kick out some squatters, but Hell Gigs is back. The pod is back. Thank you to those that have been asking about it for a while. So it's exciting. If you're new to the podcast, thanks for listening. This is a podcast about comedians and entertainers' worst shows. And to welcome back to the pod for this renewal, this rebirth from the fires of hell itself, the guest is going to be me, because I never get to tell my stories. Dave, I never get to tell my own stories on this podcast. Don't you feel like that's a shame?
Yeah, dude, it's a shame.
Don't you feel like that is a bummer? Because I feel like I would have good stories because I've done so many bad shows.
I didn't sign up to be on. You just
You're
asked
on
me to do the producing thing.
Yeah.
And now I just feel like I'm like a therapy.
I'm not going to sit next to you and not talk to you the whole time, David.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. Yeah, for sure. You got the best stories.
Thank you, Dave. Well, I just want to say real quick before we get into it. This will be some of my stories. So this is one of the first shows I ever did. It was also one of my worst shows. I've told the story a few times, but I don't think I've ever told it on this podcast. And it's maybe my favorite story to tell people when they ask me about the worst shows I've done. So, when I was 2 years into comedy, and maybe even less. And as you start doing comedy, and Dave, as you get into it, people start going, "Oh, you're doing comedy? That's cool. Where can I see you?" Where they want to be supportive, and people start asking, and how much money do you make, and all these weird questions and stuff. So I was about maybe a year, 2 max in, and people started finding out I was doing comedy and see it on Facebook and stuff like that. And you promote things and you get a couple shows. Most of the time early on, it's just you're in a bar basement and you invite 3 friends to come and watch you go at 1:30 in the morning. When I started comedy, I used to wear cargo shorts and slip-on shoes. I looked like I was selling wakeboards at a beach. And I performed like that for a while. Not anymore because I'm a professional. You know what I mean? When I'm here, I always dress up.
You do. You have bomber jackets every time.
Sometimes I have a flannel jacket.
It's good. Yeah, it's good.
I think you should dress for the part you want.
Yeah.
So anyway, I would wear a ball cap and slip-on shoes and cargo shorts, and it was not a good look. I looked I just had a look when I first started comedy that I should have always had a mustard stain on my shirt. I just constantly looked like I just got done eating a hot dog. But so I start, and people were sort of finding out, and they're asking, and I get a call from my dad's friend, and I will name him. His name is Myron. I won't say his last name because he has children, but he knows this. I've told him how bad this show was and to never do this to another entertainer ever again. So I get a call from my dad's friend Myron, and I know nothing about negotiating. I still don't, but I knew less than I know now. So he calls me and goes, "Hey, I hear you've been doing comedy. That's exciting. That's awesome. Your dad says it's going pretty well." I'm like, "Thanks." I'm thinking he's going to want to hit me up to come to a show. And he goes, "I want to hire you for a private event." Now, knowing what I know now, corporate gigs, private gigs, good money. Sometimes they're not ideal for comedy in the sense that, there's a lot of requirements. I did a show for lawyers 2 months ago at 12 o'clock in a dining room of a sailing club. And it was about 100 lawyers in Connecticut at noon. The sun was beating in. They were all eating wedge salads and stuffed chicken breasts. And I had to go do 20 minutes of comedy in a sport coat I got from Banana Republic, but the money's good. So you have to take it. That's soul crushing. Do you ever look out? I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure, Dave, of looking out a window at a body of water that you cannot afford to sail on while doing comedy, just sort of seeing a life that you will never have.
I got to be honest, things have been going pretty well, and I can't connect with this.
But I feel like even if things are going well for you, I mean, not that they're going poorly for me. I was paid well to do the show. I just feel like at this sailing club that I'm not going to be invited to join.
You're an outsider.
I'm an outsider. I felt like an outsider. But anyway, the point is that these corporate gigs can be really good money, and you do it and it's great, and usually they take care of you and stuff like that. It's always weird though. This is what they said at this gig, not to get too far off topic, at this gig in Connecticut. They go, well, we were just going to seat you at our table and you can eat with us, and then when it's your time to go up, just go up. I was like, listen, there is a little bit of magic in comedy, and I'll tell you a good way to kill that magic is to have everybody watch me eat before I go do my set. Nothing is more uncomfortable than having to sit down with the people you're about to perform for and then eat. And then when I'm done, go sit back down with them. It's very uncomfortable.
I believe you. I don't know how much you want me to interject.
I want you with me, Dave.
All right. So honestly, I know exactly what you mean because I explain where the bathroom is and I bring people in, and you lose all the sparkle. Like they don't think you're like a cool comic dropping in because they see you like cleaning up, vomit. You lose the sparkle. There has to be a sparkle to this. So I tell them, no, I'm not going to sit there. I'm not going to eat, eggplant rollatini or whatever they had, and then go do my set. And then what was really fun, how fun these corporate gigs are, is that I had to follow a moment of silence, and then they named all of the people of their firm, their law firm, and this group of lawyers that passed away from COVID, because they hadn't had one of these. There was like an annual thing. They would do this meeting and this luncheon, and they hadn't had a meeting for 2 years. So they mentioned everybody in their organization that passed away. They named all of their names. And then they were like, and now Collin Chamberlin. And I had to go up there and do 20 minutes of material. And how did it go, Collin?
Actually went pretty well. Thank you for asking, Dave.
All right, so that's a bad story.
Well, I'm just telling how the set, I'm setting up that corporate gigs can be good and these private events can be good. I mean, I've done some weird ones. I've done some private backyard parties where I thought I was going to get purged. But cut to, let's go back in time to this story. So my dad's friend Myron, he goes, I want to hire you for this event. I have no idea what to say. So I'm like, all right, what's up? And he goes, well, it's for my daughter. It's sort of it's a surprise for her, but what's your rate? That's the question he asked, is what's your rate? Now, I had no idea that he meant money. I thought he meant like how much like time or like jokes per minute. I thought he meant like the rate of jokes that I do. I was like, I don't know, 20 minutes. And he was like, no, like how much money do you charge to do a show? And I said, like an idiot, $50, which is criminally low for what nobody should be paid. I mean, for an hour of performing. And I did not have an hour of material, but, so I say $50 and he's like, oh, that's great. Definitely. I could definitely do that. It's never good when they are excited about the price. You know what I mean? Like, it's never a good thing when they go, oh, that's what it is? Yeah, I can do that. No problem at all. Like, you kind of want them to be like, okay, because then you've got them at a number that they weren't willing to give.
Is that the last time that you worked for that number, or did you like learn your lesson right away and then raise it, or?
I learned my lesson after I told a few other comedians about this, and then they made fun of me. And they were like, ask for $3,000 because for something like this, because the gig was so bad. It was so set up for failure. Because you ask for a lot of money and one of two things happen. They either say yes, and then you get a lot of money and you sell your soul for this gig, or they say no and you don't have to do it.
I know a guy, I won't say who because I don't want to ruin his thing, but it was a hedge fund that approached him because he had like kind of a tech audience, like he kind of fit into that world a little bit. And when they asked for his number, he gave a stupid number because he didn't want to actually do the thing. He said like $5,000, and they came back and they were like, because I think it was like a girl that was like coordinating it, like not someone responsible for the budget, but maybe someone that's like responsible for like picking out their favorite person, like maybe a lower level person. And they were like, oh, I think we can do like $10,000. And Dear God.
Yeah.
Dear God. Could you imagine? I mean, we'd hope to one day. But that's crazy. That's not what happened here. This guy did not go, $50 seems too low. I'll give you 100 or 200, whatever it was. He was on board. So I have really no details about what the show is. He goes, I need you to meet me at this. There's a place in Pittsburgh when I was in Pittsburgh called Phipps Conservatory. It's a place where they have all these plants and flowers, and it's very scenic in the sense that you would go there to take pictures for a wedding or graduation or something like that. And just so happens what this was a pre-prom photo shoot for some high schoolers. So this guy's daughter is going to her senior prom, I believe, and it's her and about 5 friends that are coming to Phipps Conservatory to have their photos taken before prom. And I am now supposed to go and do comedy for them at some point. So I don't totally know how it's going to work as I'm getting this information.
I'm confused why. You're great, Collin. We love your comedy. But
Thank you.
why would anyone think that would be what high school?
That is a great question. A question that I asked him. I was like, what, after this event was over, which I'll go into more detail. I asked him, I was like, but are you insane that you thought that high school girls would want to hear at the time, a 21-year-old comedian talk about like dating?
Oh, you're barely older than them.
I'm barely older than them at the time.
Do you have siblings? Do you have younger siblings?
Yeah, I have younger siblings.
That probably were like in high school at that time.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It was very weird. So I show up to this. He gives me a time. He gives me the place. He tells me it's a photo shoot for pre-prom, before they go to the prom. I still don't really know how it's going to go down. I keep thinking eventually we'll go into a room and maybe they sit down and I do like a half hour or something. So I'm sitting outside and he goes, it's a surprise. I just want to look into the camera that if you are somebody that wants to do something nice for someone, an anniversary, a birthday, some sort of celebration, comedy is rarely the answer. Please do not celebrate with comedy. Surprise comedy has never worked, ever. Comedy works best when people know what's going to happen and they know what they're getting into. So never give the gift of comedy, ever. But so I'm sitting outside and this big black Escalade pulls up and this guy gets out, Myron, in a tuxedo. I'm in like a flannel button-down shirt and like khaki pants and tennis shoes. Like I look like I could be like working at this place. So he comes over to me and he goes, hey, Collin, I'm glad you can make it. He goes, the girls are in the car. They're about to come out and then some of the parents are going to meet us here too. We're going to walk around. I got a photographer that's going to follow us around for about 45 minutes and we're going to take some pictures. So they don't know you're here. But when they come out, I just figured you'd start doing your act and just follow us around while we take pictures. I'm like, what? So this is a 2-tiered place, and there's all kind of different. There's different parts to this greenhouse thing. So there's a part over here it's more tropical, and then there's a part over here with a waterfall, and there's a part over here that has different plants. So people walk around, and you go on a tour, and you take pictures of all the different things. So he wants me to follow them as they get their pictures taken and tell jokes. Essentially, follow this group of girls and their parents and tell jokes and entertain them while they're getting their pre-prom pictures taken.
That's not even a show. That's like
it's not a show.
It's kind of weird.
It's extremely weird. So, but the craziest part is that these girls don't even know I'm there. Like, imagine thinking like this is the best night of your life. Like you're in high school, you're a girl, it's your senior prom. You're like, this is it. Like this is where everything is left behind. We're gonna live forever. I'm so excited. As soon as we get some of these photos done, we're all gonna go. We have a Aquafina bottle filled with Smirnoff Ice or whatever, and it's gonna be a great night. And we're all going to stay in touch after school. And then you get out and you see me sitting there and I'm about to tell jokes. So I'm sitting there. He goes back to the car. He opens the door. The girls come, like 6 girls in gowns and 1 dude. And they come filing out and he's walking them up to the front of this place, to the front doors. And he goes, Collin, what are you doing here? And I was like, he goes, this is my friend Collin. He's a comedian. Dude, you should tell some jokes. And I'm standing out there and I'm literally, all I can think of is doing crowd work. So I'm like, hey, so how you guys doing for prom? That's exciting. Algebra. When did they start putting all these letters in math? I didn't know they were putting letters in. Homework sucks, huh? Doesn't homework... I always liked recess and lunch. Those are my favorite subjects. Like, I'm doing crowd work, and the girls, you could see the look on this poor girl that her dad did this to her. And because the main girl, the target, she was so mortified. Her face was so shocked, and her friends, like, they have no idea what's going on. They're like looking at me. Dude, almost instantly, one of the girls just walked away and went and sat down on a bench to get away from me. So this girl's like looking at her dad, and her dad's like cracking up. He's like, isn't this great? He's funny. He's going to follow us around. The photographer's coming out and taking pictures of them. They must have some horrible pictures from this. This is supposed to, like, I don't know what they charged for the photographer, probably more than $50, but I'm sure they have some horrible pictures somewhere of just this poor girl realizes what's going on, what her father has done to her on the best night of her life at this point. So we go into the venue itself, or not the venue, the greenhouse, this place where there's all these flowers and stuff. And we all get on the elevator together. Me, these 6 girls, this other guy that's with them is one of their dates, the dad, the mom, a couple other parents, the photographer. We're all on the elevator, and it's like dead silent. And I'm like, oh boy, these things really take a while, huh? It'd be bad if like someone farted. Like, I'm scrambling for anything I could do to get a laugh. Nobody's laughing at me. Everybody's so uncomfortable. We get out, we start walking around, they're taking pictures. So I'm thinking like, well, while they're taking pictures, am I supposed to try to make them laugh while they're doing that? So I'm like trying to like photobomb them, and I'm like making like goofy faces. Dude, I was essentially a clown. Like in the true, like I was a clown for a few minutes of just like I was like picking flowers up and like putting them like on my head. I'm like, look at, I was scrambling for any sort of laughter. And the dad is like cracking up. He loves it. Like, he thinks this is so funny. He's like, isn't this great? I got this guy. The other parents are also shocked. Like, I think they were worried that this guy was going to be driving their children to the prom, to their senior prom, because he seems unhinged. Like, anybody that would hire somebody to do this seems unhinged and not well. And so we're walking around, and I'm scrambling for material. Like, at one point, there was one guy with 6 girls. I was like, wow, one guy, 6 girls, you're a lucky guy, huh? And like one mom like shoots me the dirtiest look and like shakes her head at me. And I do remember they had some sort of like learning section where they had like fake plants to like for kids to play with, and I'm like grabbing, I'm like throwing them to them, like, here, take a picture with this, rubber rose or whatever, and I'm like goofing around. And finally, one of the moms comes over and she's like, I think we've had enough of this, and like just tells me to stop. So now I still though have to like get out of this place. So I'm with them, and I just stopped trying to be funny. I stopped doing any semblance of an act, and I had another show later. So I'm just standing there, and the photographer is standing next to me, and it was one of the lowest points of my career, and still the photographer stands next to me and he goes, tough crowd, huh? I'm like, dude, tough crowd. This is not even a crowd. This is my worst nightmare. 6 high school girls judging me. This is so bad. This is so uncomfortable. I mean, there's not enough money. I don't know what I was thinking. I should have said no, but there's not enough money to get me to perform for a bunch of like mean high school girls. Not even that they were mean. They just naturally they're catty. And it was truly a nightmare, like of facing this fear of being judged by these young women and having to, getting no laughs. So I'm standing there, the guy comes over, he pays me, but we're on the 2nd floor and we have to leave. We all have to leave together. So we all have to get back on the elevator together and go down. And I remember my last ditch effort was I think there's 3 floors, or I don't know. There was a few floors, and we had a few to go through. And I just pressed all the buttons on the elevators to make the elevator stop at the other floors. I thought that would be funny. And I was like, God.
What's funny now?
Got it.
Yeah, you nailed it. That's good.
Nailed it.
Awesome.
That was my like big closer, was pressing all the buttons on the elevator. And they were so mad. These girls were so mad.
No shit. Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's true though. They should have been mad. They but it's also like, what were you thinking? What was this guy thinking I was going to do? Come and make, I mean, it would have been better to have someone come and make balloon animals, truly, or do magic. Hey, real quick, shout out to some people that sponsor us. Can I shout some people out today?
Do some shout outs.
I want to shout out True Classic. Great t-shirts. Check them out. There's a link in the show notes and in the video. Use that link. Get yourself some great t-shirts. Also, shout out to Liquid Death Water. They've got some great water. I know they're sending you some water here at Sesh.
You know, they have, and the comics absolutely love it.
They do?
Yeah, no, it actually is really good because we don't do a good job of like hydrating the comedians, and this really nailed it. You can really crush your thirst.
You can murder it too.
Is that the slogan?
It is. It's murder your thirst because it's liquid death.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's murder your thirst. Sense. We will not do it a third time. I once did a gig where I worked a fashion show, very similar to this, where they go, come and be funny. I thought I was going to like open up the fashion show. They had me walk around to people's tables while they were having cocktails and tell jokes.
This happened to you more than once.
I've had some strange things happen to me. But anyway, maybe we'll tell that story. But so now I am on the elevator with them. Opens up, the guy's like, dude, thanks so much for coming, appreciate it. I got another, like, I think at one point he was like, I have a younger daughter, or, you know, when she goes to prom, I'm like, yeah, let me know. I was mortified. Get my $50, get in my car, I drive to another show, I get out, and this is how I knew how bad I was like getting paid and how bad this gig was. I mean, it was horrible. It was embarrassing. And you're like sitting in it, but you go, well, I guess this is just normal. And I start like talking to these other comics at this show, and they're like, what'd you do today? And I was like, I had like a private gig. And like, oh wow, private gig. That's cool. And I was like, yeah, it was all right. It was like for this girl's prom. And they were like, wait, like you did a high school prom? Like you performed at a prom? And I was like, no, it was like they were taking pictures. And like, as I'm revealing it, they're like, what? And then they go, how much money did you make? And I said $50. And they were like, you are out of your mind. They were like, you only asked for 50. I was like, I thought that was, they pay me $50 to host at the Improv. I thought that was it. They were like, are you crazy? So we got horrible, and it wasn't this guy's fault. I told him $50, but grossly underpaid, embarrassed, had no fun. Now it's a great story, but at the time I literally thought I remember getting in my car and thinking like, if this is comedy, I'll die. Like I will die from embarrassment.
Can I ask, now that you're big time professional funny guy, look at you.
Thank you.
What would you do differently if you had like gun to your head, you had to go do that gig again?
Oh, I think I would address how awkward it is. I think that's sometimes you have to address the elephant in the room. And I tried not to. I tried to not address that we were walking around. I tried to tell jokes and I tried to like do anything I could to get a laugh. I think the first thing I would have said was like, I know this is the worst thing you could imagine. I know that you girls don't want me to be here, and I don't want to be here either. But I have to be here because I'm getting paid.
It sounds like a Tim and Eric sketch. Like it sounds like the dad. Either the dad had like kind of a sick sense of humor, like a very meta sense of humor.
Right. I would say he didn't. I think he was. Yeah. I think he is just like a goofy dad that's like, oh, jokes are funny, and this guy tells jokes, and who doesn't like to laugh? It was so bad. So yeah, I found out later how bad I was getting underpaid and stuff, and I never did another prom again. But what I would love to know, and I really should reach out, not to him, but maybe to his daughter. If I could get his daughter to come on here and tell her side of it, I think that'd be so funny to hear because I go in my car and I go to another gig and it's embarrassing, but I tell some comics and then we get a good laugh at it. And now it's a story. Now it's a story I tell people when people ask me what my worst show was. They have to get in their car and now go to prom. And like, this is just in the air. Like there's got to be a feeling of like, that didn't really happen, did it? And they go to that prom and like one of those girls goes over and be like, you never believe what happened at Marissa's earlier.
No, that
like,
rocks. That's really awesome. And they're old people now. They have a good story too.
Right, I guess they do. Thank you, Dave. They do have a good story. But it was truly one of the worst. But it has happened to me more than once where I've been hired to do these private things. So this similarly, again, underpaid because I didn't know. Like maybe it was a year later. And this guy sees me we were at like a party or something, for entertainers or something. And this guy comes up to me and he finds out I'm a comedian. He's like, oh, I host this event. I have this really high-end clothing store in Pittsburgh. I host this fashion show every year, this event. And I'd love to have you come perform it at the event. And I'm like, dude, this is awesome. So he gets my information. We go back and forth on a price. I'll just tell you what it was, $200. I thought that was a good price. It was not. I always learn too late. You know what I mean? That's my biggest problem is I find things out a little bit too late. So I said $200. Again, he was thrilled to give me $200. That's how you know it was too low. But he's like, I want you to come in and see the store and kind of, it's an informal audition. I was like, a what? He goes, well, you got the gig. I just kind of want to see what you're going to do. So I come into this clothing store. I also at the time didn't have a suit and I had to buy a suit. I bought a suit from Kohl's and I was in a store that sells like, $800, like no joke, like $800 like t-shirts. And you're like, I don't even understand why this t-shirt is so expensive, but it's all super high-end clothing. And I had to go to Kohl's and buy a suit from the bargain bin, but I go in for this like audition and he's there with his assistant and he's like, okay, so this is the show's on this night and we'll have a big crowd and there'll be cocktails and dinner, so make sure you get yourself a drink and some food and you'll be telling some jokes, but tell me a joke, let me hear a joke. And I'm like, I guess I kind of tell more like stories, and he goes, how about I tell you a joke? He tells me some stupid, three Polacks walk into a bar or something and say, ouch. I don't know what the joke is. Pretty actually a good joke. But he tells me some dumb joke. He goes, now it's your turn. So I try to take, because I don't have one-liners. So especially at this time. And now if I would have going back, I would have just told him like a stock joke that I like. But now, so I try to think on my feet, what is the quickest joke that I have and how can I tell it with like one line? And it was like a joke about the Pittsburgh Steelers and like me not being athletic. And he goes, well, maybe you'll do something different the night of the show. Like didn't laugh at all, like just completely dismissed me. So the night of the show comes, I'm in my Kohl's suit. I get there and I'm thinking like there's a stage and there's going to be a speaker and stuff. So I'm thinking I'll probably go before or after the speaker, Again, this is why people have contracts and things are written out and people handle this stuff for you. I just go off of like one email. I'm like, sure, I'll be there. No problem. And he tells me, I go, so when do you want me to go up there? He's like, oh no. He's like, the speaker's going to go up in about an hour. Until then, I'd like you to walk around and mingle with the guests and tell them jokes. Last year we had a magician and people loved it. I was like, of course they did, because they can prove that they're doing something. I can't just walk up and be like, so have you heard this one about Ubers? Like, so his assistant literally had to, almost drag me from table to table and be like, this is Collin. He's a comedian. And I just started doing like very intimate crowd work. We're like intimate in the sense of like, it's three people at a cocktail table. I'm like, that's a nice watch. Keep an eye on it, cause I got student loans. And people are like, oh, he's poor. Like all these rich people are just like, most of the jokes, the crowd work I did was just how poor I was and how I bought my suit at Kohl's and stuff like that. But yeah, these people are crazy. And then at the end of the night, they give you your money and you get in your car and you leave and you feel bad because you're like, well, that was interesting, but also like, I just embarrass myself completely. It's always the drive home that gets you. Like after a bad show or something uncomfortable like that, the drive there, you're anxious, there's adrenaline. After a bad thing, the drive home is the longest drive you'll have in your life. That's why I think a lot of comedians end up like that. Like I know, like I call certain comedians after shows just because I know they'll be up and I can tell them immediately about it. But I remember driving back to my dad's house because I was living at home and thinking like it's much similar to that first time, being like, this can't be it. This can't be why I got into this business. To just do shows for like rich people in dresses and not even a show, to just walk around and basically, again, like be like a clown, be like, oh, that's a nice purse. Where'd you get it? The toilet store? Like, I mean, nothing, nothing worked. But yeah, that prom show haunted me for a while, and it's still, I don't want to think though that I ruined that girl's prom. I hope she still had a good time. I should reach out to her. Well, I'll tell you what would be fun is if we redid the whole thing now. If we got those girls together and went and walked there and I get them all back together and do a show just for the 6 of them. I may see if I can get a club and get them all together and just do a show for 6 of them and their dad. That might be fun.
You know, it'd be great if the dad did not enjoy it. He's like, "This, you weren't funny at all."
Yeah, right. Well, you know, what's funny is that guy has come to see me perform multiple times since then. And he was like, "This is fun." I'm like, "This is fun. This right here is fun. In a comedy club with other people laughing is fun. What you did to me, not fun." And he knows. I've told him several times. Every time I see him, I go, you know, I tell that story to everybody about how bad that night was.
Well, honestly, you're maybe the best person that could have happened to, though. I mean, you were pretty early into comedy at that point. You said you were 21. So what, like 3 years? How long?
I was like, like maybe 2 years in.
I know a lot of great comics in Philly. 3 years into their open micing at Philly, that would have been a lot of like abortion material. It would have been a totally different vibe than like, at least you knew to do crowd work. Yeah.
No, I mean, it always helps because I'm clean, and it made it easier. It would have been weird if I was like, so the Illuminati, you know, what's going on with them? You know, the Federal Reserve is a lie. Like if I just started doing super like crazy stuff, but that would have been uncomfortable but I guess that's why he had me do it. But I always ask like any ratings, you know, anything to stay away from. I did have one guy once. This is so sad. We're really uncovering a lot. Do I have you for the night, Dave? How long do I have you for? Because I'm gonna get somewhere with this. But I'm just kidding. I'll wrap up soon. I had a guy book me for a pool party in his backyard, and he was having a neighborhood pool party. He wanted me to do about a half-hour comedy. I brought an opener to do like 10 minutes, and it was outside. People were literally swimming like at my feet because the microphone was like at the edge of the pool. But before I get up to tell any jokes, he comes up to me. He's like, "Dude, thank you so much for coming. I'm excited. This could be great. People know comedy's happening." And he goes, "You know who I love? Sebastian Maniscalco. Do you do anything like him?" I was like, couldn't be farther from it, honestly. He was like, "No. Well, if you feel like doing anything like him tonight, that'd be awesome because I love Sebastian." And people are not like, these people are psychopaths. They just think that like, I'm going to go up and be like, "Oh, okay, that's a good note. Let me go do some," like I just get on stage. I get in front of this pool and I'm just like, "My neighbors, they come over." Yeah. Like just start doing Sebastian's act. A lot of times people think comedy is like music and you can just turn it on and turn it off and just play Margaritaville. You don't know Margaritaville? It's, who cares if you didn't write it? Just do that. So many people don't know how comedy works. And they think that they do because they've seen it on TV or they see one show and they go, "I could do that," or "I want to do that," and we could do that here. Very rarely they can because there's so many things that make comedy work well.
good lighting, good crowd size, tight ceilings, low ceilings, tight walls, like good sound, all of these things being funny, go into it. And people were just like, oh, we'll just have a 12 o'clock show at a gazebo. We're all having, or we're having a picnic lunch. I mean, we saw it during COVID, just shows in parks, and they were horrendous.
You do anything weird during COVID? Wait, the shows wise.
I did a lot of Microsoft Teams meetings, shows on Microsoft Teams for companies. I would come on and they would go, hey, it's lunchtime at Howard's and Sons and Law or whatever it is, and while we're all having lunch today, don't forget it's Tiki Friday, so everybody's got their beach wear on. It was always a theme, and they go, and we got a comedian from New York to entertain us while we have lunch. And I would just tell jokes from my home on Microsoft Teams and for like these people's lunch break, and it was very uncomfortable. I once did a college show on Zoom, and I get on before to do a sound check, and the student advisor or whatever goes, okay, yeah, we're gonna start in like 20 minutes. I was like, cool, awesome. And I said, I always ask, I go, can you just make sure that some of the students when they get on this are unmuted so I can hear them laugh, and make sure their cameras are on so I can see them. It just helps makes the show feel a little bit more real. And they go, well, you actually won't be able to see anybody. I was like, what? They go, yeah, we're gonna leave, and we're projecting you on a screen in the student union because we have students on campus. We just aren't bringing in any performers right now. So we're gonna project you on the screen in the student union, and you'll just do your act. And I was like, so I won't be able to hear anyone either? They're like, no, but if you need anything, there's a sound guy that'll be on screen, and he can help you if you need something.
On screen?
Like he stayed on the meeting. You know what I mean? He stayed in like the corner of the Zoom meeting to be like, if there was any technical issues, I could like ask him. But for 45 minutes to an hour, I did comedy with no audience, essentially. I could not see audience. I couldn't hear audience. The only reason I knew people were there because I was getting tagged on Instagram in people's stories, like of my face in the student union. And there was a moment where I thought I truly have lost my mind. Like I felt like I was in it was like Shutter Island, where I was like, is any of this real? Like you end a joke and there's nothing there, and you go on to the next one, and then you do that and there's nothing there, and you just keep going to the point where you're like second guessing. You're like, am I just saying sentences? Like, am I saying cohesive sentences? Is any of this making sense? I had to tell myself like not to snap. Like in my head, I'm like, dude, I'm going to freak out. I'm going to freak out and ruin this show and not get paid. And I was like, no, please, Collin, just keep going. And when it was over, I remember like the girl coming on and be like, we had fun. That was great. And I was like, yeah, thanks. But also just like, so this is not good. Like I was like, I just want to let you know, if you ever have anybody else do this, don't do this to them. And they're like, oh, what do you mean? I was like, I need to hear something, even if you turn one laptop on in the corner of the student union, just so I can hear people chit chat, that would be better. But yeah, it was really insane. That was probably one of the craziest things I did. I did some other crazy stuff, but we'll save it for another time. But anyway, let me wrap up with this. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the YouTubes and the Apple podcast. I think it's still on Spotify. I don't think anyone took us off of there. And wherever you get your podcasts, you can get this. There is a Patreon, patreon.com/Collin Comedy, bonus episodes of the pod, bonus stand-up stuff, extra stories of mine that I haven't told on the podcast. Lots of fun stuff. $5 a month gets you to be a part of it. We got some fun stuff going up there. We got some road dates coming up, Dave. We're in Martinsburg, West Virginia in 2 weeks at Amani Brewing, I believe. After that, Comics Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. And then at the end of October 28th and 29th, I think, I will be at the Omaha Funny Bone, one of my favorite clubs in the country, the Omaha Funny Bone. I can't wait to come
And it'll be fun. A lot of fun stuff coming up in October. Like, subscribe, check us out on social media, Instagram, Collin_comedy. That's important. Get on there. And thank you for listening. Don't forget, True Classic, Liquid Death, shout out to them. And the biggest shout out of all the shout outs that should be shouted from the mountaintops, shout out to Sesh Comedy and you, Dave, for doing this and being here with me.
Thanks, Collin. Thanks for having us. This is real good listening to all your fun little stories.
Thank you. All right, that's it. Thank you.